Hello learners! I'm Teacher Nikki and I will be your science teacher for today's video lesson. With the learning competency, describe the possible causes of plate movements. In the previous video, you have learned the different types of plate boundaries as well as their movements relative to each other. But have you ever wondered the reason behind the plate's movement? Now, get ready and open your imaginations as we unveil the wonders of the Earth's interior. Let us all find out the driving force of plate's movement. And together, we are going to learn convection current. Are you ready? Let's begin! Let's start with the pretest to determine your prior knowledge for today's video lesson. Here's what you're going to do. Read the questions carefully and write the letter of your choice in your activity notebook. 1. What is the driving force of plate movement? A. Convection current. B. Subduction process. C. Divergence of plates. D. Convergence of plates. 2. What do the arrows in the mantle represent which causes the plates to move apart? A. Convection current. B. Subduction process. C. Divergence of plates. D. Convergence of plates. 3. Which of the following changes would end Earth's tectonic activity? A. When Earth's crust becomes a cooler solid. B. When Earth's outer core becomes warmer. C. When Earth's mantle becomes cooler and solid. D. When Earth's mantle becomes warmer, semi-liquid. 4. Particles of hot soup rise slowly in a pot simmering on a stove. The hot soup near the surface begins to cool and sink, forming a constant movement of the soup that moves energy towards the surface of the pot. What do you call this constant movement of the soup in the pot? A. Convection current. B. Subduction process. C. Divergence of plates. D. Convergence of plates. 5. Which part of the mantle is made of soft rock that bends like plastic? A. Asthenosphere. B. Core. C. Crust. D. Mantle.
How did you find the test? Did you find it difficult? Worry no more, for you will learn as we go along in this video lesson. Now, are you ready for today's activity?
Yes!
Alright, let's do this! Pictures will be flashed on the screen and I want you to determine the word that is being described by the pictures. Write your answers in your notebook. Your science teacher will be the one to collect all your notebooks. Number 1. What word is being described by the pictures? Write your answers in your notebook. Number 2. What word is being described by the pictures? Again, write your answers in your notebook. Number 3. What word is being described by the pictures? Learners, don't forget to write your answers in your notebook.
I hope you got it all right. Let's now explore. Prepare the following materials and perform the activity. Learners, be extra careful in handling flame and hot objects. The materials needed for this activity are the following: beaker, tripod, wire gauze, alcohol lamp, and in the absence of an alcohol lamp, we can use an improvised one. Match, a steering rod, a food color, and the cooking oil. the procedures. For the first procedure, we are going to place the red food color in the middle at the bottom part of the beaker. Next is using a stirring rod, we are going to pour a 200 ml cooking oil to the beaker. Make sure that as we pour the cooking oil, the red food color at the bottom of the beaker is undisturbed. Using a matchstick, light the improvised alcohol lamp. Now we are going to place the wire gauze on top of the tripod, and we are going to place this beaker with the cooking oil on top of the wire gauze. Heat the beaker until it boils and observe what happens. Write your observations in your activity notebook and answer the following guide questions.
Guide questions. Number 1. What do you think do the following materials represent? A. For the beaker with cooking oil and food color. B. The food color. C. Alcohol lamp. Number 2. How does the food coloring react? 3. What do you call this behavior? 4. Draw the direction of the moving food color. 5. How does this event cause plate movement? Hope you're still doing good so far. Now at this time, I want you to listen, focus your attention, and keep this in your mind. The activity that we've done focused on the convection current. The Earth is made up of 3 layers: the crust, the mantle, and the core. In Earth's mantle, large amounts of heat are transferred by convection currents. Heat in the mantle comes from the Earth's core. It comes from the intense pressure on the rock combined with the energy released from natural radioactive decay of elements. The hot core heats the rock material above it. When rock material is heated, it expands and thus becomes less dense as temperature increases. Less dense rock material rises. Relatively cooler rock above the mantle slowly sinks. As the hot molecules move up, they cool down and begin to drop. As the cool molecules move down, they heat up and begin to rise. This cycle goes on over and over again in the mantle. This rising and sinking of molten rock materials in the mantle is what we call convection current. How does convection current move the plates? The rising magma pushes against and along the plates, which eventually moves the plates together in the case of convergent plate boundary, apart in the case of divergent plate boundary, or along each other in the case of transform fault boundary. Convection currents within the mantle provide one potential driving force for plate movement. Here are the factors that cause the formation of the current. First is the difference in the density of the molecules, which is caused by the difference in the temperature. The second one is the rate of heating at the bottom and cooling at the top. And the third one is the amount of heat supplied to the substance. Now, let's apply what you've learned. Study the figure and answer the following questions. Write your answers in your activity notebook. Guide questions. Number 1. Where does the heat come from that drives this convection current in the mantle? Number 2. What will happen to continents in A and B? Number 3. What type of plate boundary will be created between A and B? Number 4. What will happen to continents in B and C? 5. What type of plate boundary will be created between B and C? Great job! For the last time, give your final insights by completing the following sentence prompts. I have learned, and I wish to ask my teacher about. Write your answers on your activity notebook. Now let's strengthen your knowledge by accomplishing the reinforcement. Make a convection current brochure. A sample trifold brochure is presented showing the inside and outside contents. Your brochure will be rated through a rubric with the following criteria: organization, ideas, conventions, and graphics. And we're down for the last one. Let's assess how far have you learned in this video lesson through a post-test. Read the questions carefully. Write your answers in your activity notebook. Number 1. What is the driving force of plate movement? A. Convection current. B. Subduction process. C. Divergence of plates. D. Convergence of plates. 2. What is the source of heat in the mantle that causes convection current? A. Core. B. Crust. C. Mantle. D. Space. 3. Particles of hot soup rise slowly in a pot simmering on a stove. The hot soup near the surface begins to cool and sink, forming a constant movement of soup that moves energy toward the surface of the pot. What do you call this constant movement of the soup in the pot? A. Convection current. B. Subduction process. C. Divergence of plates. D. Convergence of plates. 4. Which part of the mantle is made of soft rock that bends like plastic? A. Asthenosphere. B. Core. C. Crust. D. Mantle. 5. What happens to rocks near the core when heated? A. It will melt, becomes denser, and will rise. B. It will melt, becomes denser, and will sink. C. It will melt, becomes less dense, and will rise. D. It will melt, becomes less dense, and will sink. 6. Which of the following changes would end Earth's tectonic activity? A. When Earth's crust becomes a cooler solid. B. When Earth's outer core becomes warmer. C. When Earth's mantle becomes cooler and solid. D. When Earth's mantle becomes a warmer semi-liquid. 7. If the Earth's core were solid and cold, will movement of the plates happen? A. No. B. Yes. C. Maybe. D. Cannot be determined. 8. What do arrows in the mantle represent which causes the plates to move apart? A. Convection current. B. Subduction process. C. Divergence of plates. D. Convergence of plates. 9. Which plates will exhibit convergent plate boundary? A. A and B. B. B and C. C. A and C. D. A, B, and C. 10. Which plates will exhibit divergent plate boundary? A and B. B, B and C, C, A and C, D, A, B and C. Word bank. A stenosphere is a soft, weak upper portion of the mantle which lithospheric plates float and move around. Convection current is the driving force that facilitates plates movement. Core contains the liquid outer core and solid inner core, the source of heat that causes convection current in the mantle. Crust is the outermost and thinnest layer of the Earth. Lithospheric plates are irregularly shaped slabs that fit together to form the surface of the Earth. Mantle is the middle layer of the Earth, which makes up most of the Earth's mass and volume. Radioactive decay is the spontaneous breakdown of an atomic nucleus, resulting in the release of energy and matter from the nucleus.
Congratulations! I hope you learned something from this video lesson. See you next time!